Okay.
Well, again, friends, we take a journey, a stroll into the interesting and mostly hidden subject of the existence of the extraterrestrial visitor Nibiru. Okay, this screenshot is from the internet. It's actually a translation from Russian, and as you may remember if you caught last week's lecture, Russian scientists recently announced publicly, and it was broadcast in various Russian media outlets, that an object larger than the Earth was spotted above the sun. And we see this little image there, which is actually Nibiru. Now, the Russian scientist labeled it or thought it was a comet passing above the sun, but we know that it was actually Nibiru and that so-called comet, because comets don't stay in one place very long. They quickly disappear and move on, and Nibiru is not disappearing and moving on. It's going to stay there and getting closer to the Earth as we get closer to the pole shift. Interestingly enough, this story has not received much traction on the internet. Zetatalk actually talked about the fact that not many people were discussing it, hasn't really caught on. And I suppose there are reasons for that. Certainly the mainstream media don't want a bar of this. We understand that. But the so-called alternative media, which for decades have refused to pick up on the story, probably also don't want a bar of it because it would show them and their readers that they have missed the boat pretty badly on this very complex topic. And they don't want that. They would prefer to present their wild conspiracy theories, many of them, as so-called explanations for what is actually happening on the planet. So I think that the Russian government will probably have to push this if Putin is able and ready. Of course, he's preoccupied with the Ukraine war at this point in time. That's understandable. But it's up to him and it's up to other Russian scientists, Russian outlets to push the story as far as they can. So we shall see. We don't really know what's going to happen. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the overview that Chandra prepared, sort of as a reference for the topics I cover in the various Nibiru lectures, and I thank you, Chandra, for doing that.
Yes, and
Next slide,
that link,
please.
that link will take you to the YouTube that's got Zach's talks on it.
Very good. Okay, this is from Zeta Talk this month. Now, was this expected? The Zetas predicted Trump and Putin would arrange a Nibiru announcement by the end of March. Now, that didn't happen, of course. It may have come late, but clearly getting NASA to stop blotting out Nibiru on the SOHO images at the time. For those who missed last week's presentation, SOHO is an observatory, you could say, a telescope, which was launched in, I believe, 1999. It was a cooperation between the European Space Agency and NASA, and it's been sending back really stunning images of the universe, both near and far. And of course, in those images, many images of Nibiru were caught or captured, whatever. This is an image from 2016, July of 2016, as you can see. And this shows what NASA used to do in the bad old days. They used to cut out the Nibiru images as much as possible. In this particular case, they didn't quite get all of the Nibiru image. They left the tail in for whatever reason while cutting out the main body. Okay, now according to Zetatalk, this may have been a coordination between the US and Russia, because this was happening in 2016. Next slide, please. Now, this is from 2020, and this is a very good capture of Nibiru from the SOHO Space Observatory. You can see it appears to be sort of a bird. In fact, the Russian scientist who announced the image being over the sun, so-called comet being over the sun, talked about it as a firebird. And you can see it does certainly have bird-like properties. The little tail coming down from the bottom, well, that's the famous slash infamous tail of Nibiru, which is highly magnetized, full of particles, such as particles and particulates, I should say, from rock size down to little dust. And it's highly magnetized and it's full of petrol, as we'll see very soon. So we're getting these images coming out on Soho, but once again, the mainstream media doesn't want to know about it. The so-called alternative media couldn't care less. And so there's no real general discussion of this among the masses, but we do have the images that there's something up there, something out there, which is basically being ignored by the establishment. Next slide, please. All right, this is a set of talk comments from last month, May of 2025. On May the 7th, that was this year, a large smoke ring was captured on film in Kansas, which is a U.S. state, Midwest state. Rather than being suppressed or ignored, the news item was reported by Fox News and the New York Post, and it went viral. The establishment is at a point where they could continue to deny and support the Nibiru cover-up or encourage debate. They appear to be taking the latter route, that is to say, encouraging debate. But I'm not so sure. My personal opinion is that they will have to report these images and these strange events in the sky because too many people are seeing them, too many people are capturing them on film, so they can't just say, well, it's a hallucination or it's a reflection of Venus or whatever ridiculous explanation they use to cover up UFO sightings. They have to acknowledge it's happening, but they will give a false explanation. And I didn't actually put in the slideshow the so-called explanation, quote unquote, which was given by the establishment media. It was something quite ridiculous. But this is what was seen in Kansas just a month ago. What is it? How did it get there? What does it mean? Next slide, please. Smoke rings have appeared since 2015, but these appeared in the lower atmosphere and not as broadly visible as the recent May 7th, 2025 smoke ring in Kansas. Smoke rings and cloud holes have been variously described as the remnants of burning petrol or burning methane towers or a mothership leaving the area. Now, these are some alternative explanations for some sightings, which we'll talk about very soon. But none of these phenomena, all caused by Nibiru, were explained by the establishment. So we've got the photos. These photos were actually from 2017. I think the Kazakhstan image was from 2017. I'm not sure where the Nottingham image is from, but 2015, 2017, around that era. Next slide, please. This is from August 2015, Talk explanation. Curious circles in the sky have been appearing in the last few years. They've been explained as a place where a mothership had just vacated the clouds, or an incomplete tornado, or the remnants or a spiral of heat from the petrol reaction in the atmosphere. Now, the tail of planet X, also known as Nibiru, has petrol elements, which, as we explained, form the basis of the old deposits on Earth. The recent dark smoke circles have such a basis. When seen at night, the petrol whoosh appears as a tower of light. When seen during the day, it is seen as a curling pillar of smoke. But when seen directly below the aftermath, only the smoke that is accumulated on the edges of the combustion remains, the smoke circle. So that's why and how they appear. And that is the true explanation as far as I'm concerned. Next slide, please. From the last month's talk analysis, smoke rings and cloud holes have been been a Nibiru phenomenon since 2015. And that's when Nibiru started pointing its petrol-laden tail toward the Earth. Now, the image on the left from South Carolina in 2007 was made in a different matter. It was actually made by a UFO. And then for those who have studied UFOs and UFO sightings, a very, very famous one that appeared over the Chicago airport, that's O'Hare International, in 2006, where numerous people in the control towers saw this huge hole appear in the clouds, and several of them witnessed the UFO. We have the recordings of people conversing from the control tower, between control towers, saying, "Did you see that UFO? Oh yeah, and look at it left this big hole." Of course, that's been covered up more or less by the establishment, or they've given some ridiculous explanation. Okay, now, according to the Zetatalk analysis, November 7th, 2006, this whole over O'Hare Airport in Chicago appeared. Now, it's interesting. This is a warning, according to Zetatalk, not only by the sighting itself, but by telepathic warnings given to the population. Now, that's a very interesting subject, and we could speculate about it. How many people are actually getting in their subconscious or unconscious if something really big is coming up or is in the process of unfolding? And you could speculate on that for days, weeks, months, or even years. South Carolina was one such place to report a UFO blitz during the same time period, and that's, as we can see, the photo on the left. What causes the holes? The recent evacuation of a mothership or large ship, which was there, but concealed by the bending of light rays around the ship. Once the ship leaves, on a cloudy day, the hole in the clouds is at first apparent. So we've got these images, a number of them, but as usual, the establishment is more or less ignoring them. And sad to say, the alternative media, so-called alternative media, doesn't give them much attention either. Next slide, please. When enough petrol was burned, that's say petrol coming from the tail of Nibiru, it left a smoke ring on the periphery. This has been a local matter until now, seen only by those directly under the petrol burn, where enough oxygen was there to sustain a substantial petrol burn. What has changed now that a smoke ring is in the upper atmosphere and is huge, seen for a long distance and causing enough of a stir to be reported in the New York Post. Well, the legacy media has been part of the cover-up over Nibiru from the start, but as the visibility of the Nibiru complex has increased, loyalties have been questioned. The New York Post has become a truther. Next slide, please. And in case you are not familiar with the New York Post, it is what is known as a tabloid or a sensationalist newspaper, which most of the establishment media, especially the New York Times, one of the most revered and read establishment papers in America, would have us think, much as the Washington Post or the Boston Globe. We are now finding, sad to say, interestingly to say, we're finding the truth coming out in these tabloids, to some extent, not completely, of course. We're finding more truth coming out in the tabloids, like the New York Post, than the New York Times. Ah, how interesting. Next slide, please. Okay, let's talk about an update on the situation regarding the new Madrid fault line stretch in America. For the past 2 years, Zetatalk has predicted that a major movement, a fracture or unzipping of the new Madrid was imminent, but that's not happened, obviously. Now, recent comments from Zetatalk now point to a timeline of either late July or early August this year as the new prediction date for the event. We shall see. Next slide, please. Now, this is from a post or website on X, Twitter. Uncontrolled wildfires on the rise. Zetatalk confirms that 67% of all fires happening now are due to sky fire, and that is to say, petrol elements from the approaching Nibiru system that ignite close to the surface due to electronic screech, or EMPs. That's electromagnetic pulses caused by tectonic stress of ripping and compressing rock. And earlier in this whole Nibiru journey, I've talked a lot about how the substrate is being stretched and squeezed, and it's creating these electronic screeches and EMPs, and they're affecting all sorts of things, including bringing down some planes, sad to say. And that, of course, has all been covered up, not reported at all by either the legacy media, mainstream media, but sadly by the so-called alternative media as well. This is a recent photograph from space. As you can see smoke coming down from north of the United States. It's basically from wildfires, bushfires burning in Canada, especially the provinces of Manitoba and Saskatchewan. And that smoke is coming a long way south. as we can see in this photograph. Next slide, please.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I lost the plot there. I'm busy coughing. There it is.
Get the next. Okay. All right. This is from a photograph taken late last month. Smoke rises from wildfire WE024, which has prompted a pre-evacuation notice in Flin Flon, Manitoba, Canada. And we've seen bushfires in Canada before. We saw big ones in 2023. There are also some fires last year, 2024. Now, it's very unusual. Having lived in Canada for 17 years, it's very unusual to see bushfires breaking out in May. The Canadian warm season, the summer months, usually begin in late May and they reach a climax around August. So normally, when I was living in Canada, you might hear reports of a few bushfires in August, maybe late July at the earliest. Usually August, sometimes in September, although in September in Canada, the weather begins to cool. What we're seeing now is bushfires in May, which is unheard of, basically. Next slide, please. Meanwhile, the Gulf is drooping as usual, meaning that the New Madrid fault line is pulling apart there, so the sides of the fault line droop. And that's a complex subject, but to explain it in lay terms, the sides, the edges of the fault line are being pulled apart, and so they droop down, and so you're getting these various methane gas releases. That's the map in the bottom right-hand corner of North America. A lot of the red is methane gas releases, and we're seeing all these things going on, and of course, no real explanation from the authorities. Next slide, please. On May 27th, the signs that the New Madrid rupture is pending and closely watched by the US military are evident. In brainstorming with a friend and piecing together various psychic predictions, it appears that the New Madrid rupture may be in a slow motion, not all in a day. Now, in the past 2 years, Zetatalk has basically stated or implied that when the New Madrid fracture, unzipping, whatever occurs, it'll be sudden, like in a matter of a few hours or one day. Now they're saying, well, it may not happen in a day, and that certainly appears to be the case. Otherwise, we would have seen it by now. As mentioned, for the last 2 years, they were saying, well, it's imminent, could happen any time, but it hasn't. So, a UK psychic on the west coast of Britain sensed a June 5th alarm. Well, that would have been yesterday in our time zone because we're a day ahead. The Japan Baba, no, the Japan Baba is a psychic, call her a psychic, a prophet, whatever. Sensed a tsunami danger from Japan in late July, early August. The psychic on the west coast of the US also sees early August 4th. And this is, the next portion is a posting from one of these psychics or contacts with the psychics. My office manager said she had a dream about all this, and the message is August the 4th. You were informed it would be the end of July, which is close enough to coincide. This is a very strong message from her in England. I assume the tsunami hitting the east coast of the USA. It's not the tsunami hitting the east coast of the USA. It will be the tsunami produced by the US coast of the USA pulling away due to the New Madrid unzipping or whatever. Will also be June 5. And of course, that didn't happen. If she is right, and the message from my assistant and Baba from Japan, that's the Japanese Baba Vanga. Baba Vanga was a Bulgarian psychic and mystic who lived in the 20th century, who has an amazing record of accurate predictions. You can look up Baba Vanga on the internet and get a lot of information about her and her predictions. Now, this so-called Baba Vanga imitation or whatever from Japan, I shouldn't say imitation, she's quite good actually. She predicted being near the beginning of August concerning the Japanese tsunami. Not aware that Japanese tsunami would happen that much later than the UK tsunami. I assumed it would be a matter of just a few days. So basically we're talking about tsunamis in different parts of the world, but basically caused by the same phenomena, namely the ripping, the unzipping, the fracture of the New Madrid. Next slide, please. Japanese Baba Vanga's chilling predictions for July 2025 sparks mass travel cancellations. This is from a Japanese English language website. And interesting, the predictions of this lady have led to an 83% drop in flight bookings to Japan. Okay, now this Japanese prophet, let us call her, because she does have a really solid record of making accurate predictions. She first came out in 1999, I believe, and this image was from the cover of a Japanese manga, which is basically cartoon type of publication. And I think it's called something like The Visions I Saw or whatever. She published one in 1999. She recently made an update in 2021. And either in the 2021 update or more recently, I'm not really sure, she made the predictions about the August the 5th tsunami hitting Japan, which has led to a marked decrease in flight bookings. So many people around the world sense that something's up, something's really big up, and they're turning to other sources than the establishment or the establishment media because they know that basically we can only get lies, misinformation, BS coming from the media about these important events. Next slide, please. Okay, her name is Ryo Tatsuki. She's also known as the new Baba Vanga. And as mentioned, look up Baba Vanga on the internet. You'll get a lot of information about her. She's predicted a massive tsunami hitting Japan in July 2025, sparking widespread concern and travel cancellations. Her manga is called The Future I Saw, and predicting disaster on July the 5th of this year. Some interpret it as a tsunami earthquake triggered by an undersea split between Japan and the Philippines. Well, that's interesting because we're talking about earth changes at a very deep level causing tsunamis on the surface. And Zetatalk has been talking about for a long time. Now, this is from The Guardian. Tatsuki's predictions, though lacking scientific basis, they had to put that in, of course, she's not a scientist, so we can sort of ignore, have gained credibility due to her previous accurate predictions of the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami in Japan, which caused 18,000 deaths, and the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster. I happened to look up on the internet I got the birth date, strangely enough, for Ryo Tatsuki. She was born on the 2nd of December, 1954. So she's a Sagittarian. What is Sagittarian noted for in the astrological universe? They are often prophetic. They see the future. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. And this lady, Ryo Tatsuki, has that ability. And she's published her predictions in these mangas, The Future I Saw, and she's gaining a lot of international credibility. And that, of course, is because not that many people trust the mainstream anymore. They don't trust the establishment. Why should they? We've been lied to for decades, centuries, millenniums. So why should anyone trust what the establishment is telling us? No way. Next slide, please. Japanese officials have urged the public. Okay, this is this is from the Japanese English language website. Japanese officials have urged the public to disregard Ryo's predictions, and they're entirely unfounded and lack any scientific basis. Now, this is a quote from Yoshihiro Murai, governor of Miyagi Prefecture. Quote, "It would be a major problem if the spread of unscientific rumors on social media affected tourism." So we're worried about tourists not coming to Japan because of the predictions of Ryo. There's no reason to worry because the Japanese are not fleeing abroad. I hope people will ignore the rumors and visit. So come to Japan, folks. It's springtime, it's summertime, and we love you. And you couldn't just ignore what Ryo said because, well, they're all unscientific. But these are her past predictions. The 1995 Kobe earthquake, Tatsuki foresaw this devastating earthquake, showcasing her ability to predict real-world events. 2011 earthquake and tsunami. She predicted this disaster, and that resulted in over 22,000 deaths. And then, interesting, the COVID-19 pandemic. Tatsuki's book, The Future I Saw, which is the earlier edition, 1999, hinted at a virus outbreak in 2020, loosely tied to the COVID-19 pandemic. Wow, that's pretty interesting. 21 years before it happened, she saw something interesting on the future horizon. So maybe we shouldn't ignore what this lady has been saying. And she predicted the death of Freddie Mercury. So not a bad prediction record from this Sagittarian lady. In fact, quite good, I would say. Next slide, please. So what will happen? What is the true date of the new Madrid rupture? Well, we're not really sure. We are not really sure. Why hasn't it happened until now? My personal belief is that there has been divine dispensation from the Council of Worlds, according to Zetatalk, or the Interplanetary Council, according to Theosophists, that have postponed, delayed all this from actually materializing. Will there be another divine dispensation in late July or early August? Well, folks, I guess we'll have to stay tuned because God only knows. And that's the end of this lecture.
So it is. Thank you, Zachary. Very interesting. I saw something online today, and it was somebody on one of the Zeta Talk Facebook pages who was pleading with people to stop posting rubbish on their page. People were posting artificial intelligence images that they thought might be Nibiru. They were posting all kinds of weird and wonderful things that clearly not Nibiru, sort of muddying the waters. And this person, I didn't notice their name, but it was a really heartfelt plea to say to people, just stop posting crap here. This is a serious site. We're trying to let people know, and whether people are doing it mischievously or whether they're doing it because they're so confused, but it's almost like the truth is impossible to find in the middle of all this rubbish. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, it's a good point. And I completely agree with that individual. But some of it is misinformation. People read that snippet, read this snippet about Nibiru, and they come to conclusions, premature conclusions. Some of it is obviously disinformation coming from the establishment. They want to shut people up. They want to discount Nibiru. It doesn't exist. It's all myth. People are crazy. Don't believe it. There's not going to be a pole shift. There's not going to be a new Madrid rupture. The earth changes we're seeing are a result of the sun, blah, 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 And so the truth is hard to discern. And as you mentioned, as you stated in the horoscope for the Asala, with that nice little powerful little square between Mercury and Jupiter and Cancer on the one hand, and Neptune and Saturn on the other, it's not going to be easy in the next little while for people to actually ascertain the truth. And also we have the wild card of divine dispensation, which has, in my opinion, been responsible for delaying the New Madrid rupture for at least 2 years, putting it off, whatever, and it may actually delay it even beyond the date of July and August of this year, when it's predicted to happen, according to the Ryo Tatsuki, the Japanese seer and psychic. So we'll see. Stay tuned, folks. This little journey is not over by any stretch of the imagination.
Do people have any other questions for Zachary?